Welcome back to Stuff That We Like / Enjoy, at least at this point in time. I'm Caleb.
And I'm Christina.
And today I'm going to ask Christina, what's something you like / enjoy?
Something that I like / enjoy is the topic of, are soulmates a real thing?
Okay.
Yeah, so the question I'll be asking today is being soulmates a real thing? And this topic came up because we were recently watching a TV show called The Good Place, which is a very fun show that has lots of lack of morality and Christian principles, but is quite fun. And a topic throughout the show is the idea of soulmates. So I thought I would do an episode on that.
Cool.
Yeah. So first of all, what are soulmates? What would you consider soulmates to be?
Somebody who's the mate of your soul.
There we go. Short and simple.
Yeah.
So in modern terms, soulmates are often seen as romantic figures who have an extraordinary connection, such as a feeling of instant recognition upon meeting each other, having an effortless understanding of each other, or a sense of coming home upon finding one another. Some extend the term of soulmates to non-romantic relationships, such as deep friendships with that just are very compatible friends. This idea also carries a sense of like fate or cosmic alignment, so that it's like you're destined to be together. Although some interpretations vary. Some people see it as a spiritual connection. Others see it as more practically like a psychological compatibility, like you just get each other. No fate involved. So not everyone agrees on a definition for what soulmates are, but for some, a soulmate is a singular once-in-a-lifetime match. For others, multiple soulmates could exist, each serving a unique purpose in somebody's life. So some people believe there's just that one person out there for them. Others think you can have multiple soulmates, which I found interesting. And I find kind of maybe defeats the concept of soulmates, but yeah. Skeptics view it as a romanticized notion that's driven by just chemistry or projecting on a relationship rather than destiny. So the more practical version of it is you just really like each other.
Okay.
You're compatible. So do you know where the idea of soulmates came from?
Sounds Greek.
Oh, there we go. Yes. So the origins of the concept of soulmates is traced back to the ancient philosopher Plato, which we should do an episode on because I'm not really sure who Plato is, but I hear about him.
Yeah.
So Plato lived in ancient Greece around the year 370 BC, so about 2,000 plus years ago, and he wrote a myth called the Symposium, which details a dialogue of a man called Aristophanes, who describes humans as having 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces. And the god Zeus, fearing the power of humans, split them all in half, condemning them to spend their lives searching for their other half, their soulmate. So this myth framed the idea of soulmates as a quest for wholeness, so you're trying to find your perfect match, and a longing to reunite with your missing piece, so that there is somebody who has half your soul out there. And within Eastern religions, there's also varied thoughts around the idea of soulmates. In Hinduism, there's belief in the idea of like karma and reincarnation, which means that souls may reconnect across lifetimes. So maybe you lose out on your one true love in this lifetime, but don't worry. If you have good karma and you're reincarnated to a better realm, you could find your soulmate there, and that's your destiny. In Buddhism, it's less focused on romantic soulmates, but there is a strong idea of interconnected souls, or the idea of karma as well, that bonds people in deep relationships that continue through cycles of death and rebirth. So you're always finding each other in the next realm. And it's maybe not necessarily romantic partners, but friends, family, things like that. And then in Taoism, they believe in yin and yang. So a big emphasis on the balance between 2 opposing forces, which kind of parallels the soulmate idea of 2 complementary beings forming a harmonious whole. So yin and yang isn't necessarily bad. It could be your connecting as a whole. Also, in the New Age, there's been kind of a new concept that's formed even just in the last 20, 30 years of the twin flame concept, which is like a very intense version of soulmates where two souls are halves of one essence. So this belief focuses on spiritual matchmaking rather than being attracted to somebody's personality or physicality, but rather their soul. So in some new age groups, like a twin flame guru will be like, your soul and your soul match, and now you are connected. And you might not actually feel truly connected with that person, but you just trust that your souls are, that they are your flame, your twin flame. And then lastly, in Judaism and Christianity, some see the idea of soulmates due to a verse in Genesis where it says, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they'll become one flesh, which suggests like a divinely ordained union between man and woman. And then when you get married, you become one flesh, therefore soulmates, maybe. Some also interpret Adam and Eve as like the original soulmates because they were created for each other by God, and Eve was created from Adam's own body. In fact, Adam says, upon first seeing Eve, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Therefore, there's that idea of soulmates. Some interpret, in Judaism and Christianity. Yeah. Growing up, did you really have a thought about like soulmates or anything like that?
I think initially I thought they were real.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to understand the concept, I dismissed it. Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I think that it's naive to think that there's one person on this planet and that you could find them. What if your person was on the other side of the globe? You know?
Yeah.
Well, you just missed out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a good
so that
point.
seemed a little ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Same thing with me. I never believed in soulmates just because I'm like, what if your soulmate like married somebody else? Then what, are you just not supposed to be with somebody ever? So,
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on to the effect of the idea of soulmates. So apparently it didn't affect us too much, which is probably beneficial. So the idea of soulmates has greatly influenced society as a whole, especially in the arts. We see it in music, movies, and in TV shows, such as The Notebook or The Titanic, where there's a notion of like a destined perfect partner and that drives the narrative of these movies. And there's definitely an emphasis on like fate and an emotional intensity among the movie's main characters, that they're separated, but they'll find each other. And it's very, grand. And this has also shaped cultural expectations of love, I think, through people watching movies where it's these, wonderfully magical Hollywood love scenes. So people have viewed love as like this transcendent, all-consuming experience that you will find your soulmate. And then if you maybe just date somebody and you enjoy them, but you're not like, I don't know, on the front bow of a cruise ship or, running through the rain towards each other, that it's not true love.
Right.
Yeah. And this cultural expectation of fate bringing your soulmate to you, and without them, you'll never find another person, is a not so modern idea as well. Think of classic Shakespearean love stories like Romeo and Juliet, where two star-crossed teenage lovers who cannot bear to be without each other would rather die than live alone. So this grand love story. The soulmate ideal often sets high expectations for relationships, kind of as I was mentioning before, where partners seek this perfect match who fulfills every emotional, spiritual, and practical need that you have. And these unrealistic expectations can cause dissatisfaction and disillusionment when partners inevitably fall short of one's idealized soulmate image, what they believe a soulmate to be. Psychologists such as Ellie Finkel argue that an all-or-nothing mindset can lead to premature breakups or difficulty sustaining long-term relationships. There's been quite a bit of psychological and mental health research done into the idea of soulmates. And there was a 2014 study in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships that shows that people who have a destiny belief, viewing that like love is fated with like one person, are less likely to work through conflicts compared to those who have a growth belief, believing that love requires effort and mutual work in a relationship. And this can lead to fragile relationships when challenges arrive if you view love as faded. Because if a relationship is going through a rough patch, this could be a sign that maybe this person isn't actually your soulmate after all. But in reality, it could be a perfect match for you, just they're having a bad day. Also, there's a mental health impact on the idea of soulmates, and that is that soulmates, while that concept can foster hope and optimism in people, like, oh, there's love for me out there, it can also, on the flip side, really amplify anxiety or loneliness for those who feel that they haven't found their one true love. And social media on top of this just amplifies this feeling because there's many influencers who curate this image of being like a perfect couple that's always laughing and enjoying each other and having a great time, which creates pressure to find that relationship as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a little quiet today.
Yeah, I'm tired.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So I looked up some surveys of Americans who were polled asking if they believe in soulmates. What percentage of Americans do you think believe in soulmates?
60?
Okay, you're pretty close. So in 2017, there was a university poll, and it said 66 of Americans believe in soulmates. And then a 2021 CBS survey said that 73% of respondents say they believe in soulmates.
Makes sense.
That's a very high amount. I had no idea. Yeah. So final question. Do you believe in soulmates?
No.
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 Okay.
No, do you?
No.
Yeah. It's a pretty easy no for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Great topic, though.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Any closing thoughts on it?
No, I mean, I think that the notion of like finding the right person for you is great. I don't think people should settle. But on the flip side, I think there is oftentimes this unrealistic expectation of that relationships don't require work. Yeah, and I have a couple friends who like found, young love. They were 20 and the girl dumped them or the guy did. And like, they've never really gotten over it. And they've idealized those relationships in their minds. And now they're in their 30s and still single and haven't dated since then. And so I think part of it is that romanticizing of something that you lost and like they were the only ones for you. So I think it really can mess with people. But on the other side, I don't think you should settle because like being in a relationship's a serious thing. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to somebody and they were thinking about asking their partner to marry them, but they weren't sure.
Okay.
And we were probably a year and a half into our own marriage. And I told them that there was no wrong or right answer for the situation because the person was a decent person. And if they married him, love would grow. They're going to work through everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to work through all the issues that this person was saying they were having with that person. And if they didn't marry him, then somebody else would come along.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way that I believe people choose a partner, is that if you like somebody, you get along with them, you feel that you love them, then you can work through most anything and that love will grow over time.
Yeah.
Even if it's not starstruck, loving feelings initially, it'll grow.
I like that.
And if you choose not to go with that person, that's fine. Somebody else will come along. So that's always been, not always, but that's been my stance on it.
I like that. So did they ask the person to marry him?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
They're still together.
Hey, that's good news, right?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Right?
We'll see.
I remember when we first started dating like 10 years ago, we had gone to the movies and we were walking back to the parking garage and the idea of soulmates came up. And you asked me like, do you believe in soulmates? And or the one. And I'm like, I think there can be like 5 or 6 the ones out there, And I remember you being kind of surprised at my answer. Because I'm like, here I am talking to a guy I obviously really like. And I'm like, yeah, I think there could be like several amazing people for you out there.
Yeah.
But I think that actually is more helpful. And I think more romantic in that you choose somebody. not because you're fated to be together or destined, but because it is a choice. I think that's just as romantic.
Yeah, fate really messes with people's heads. You need to take your relationship status out of fate's hands.
Yes.
And just make a decision.
Yeah.
Everybody out there, you gotta crap or you gotta get off the pot, but just make a decision, in a relationship. I feel like so many people are like, I don't know if this is the right one. And it's like, well, are you willing to make it work? That's it. Are you willing to, or are you not willing to? You just need to make a decision, because the longer you wait, the longer you're not going to have the benefits of being married or the benefits of being single. You're just in this terrible limbo.
Yes.
So
figure it out.
Pull the trigger. Do something.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like your honesty and your tiredness. You're just like saying it how it is.
That's how it is, people.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Cool. All right. Well, will we do myth busting now, or we do that another time?
We could head over to myth time if you're ready.
The square corner, you call it? Myth corner?
No, that's conspiracy corner. We haven't done that in a while.
I feel like you've said like a right angle of a room in the last month.
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to be in myth corner.
Nope. Welcome back, guys. We're going to myth time.
All right.
Christina busts a myth related to our topics. You have any myths today?
I do. So the myth is that Taylor Swift does not believe in soulmates.
I believe that.
And that is false.
Oh, really?
Yes. So Taylor Swift most definitely believes in the concept of soulmates, at least in relation to the lyrics she has written. So I'm going to
so she hasn't made a statement.
No.
It's just the lyrics.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So it's my assumption through what she has written.
Yeah.
So with every guitar string scar on my hand, I take this magnetic force of a man to be my lover. My heart is borrowed and yours has been blue. All's well that ends well to end up with you. So this magnetic force. Another one is, and isn't it so pretty to think all along there was some invisible string tying you to me? And then, of course, the classic love story. Romeo, save me. They're trying to tell me how to feel. This love is difficult, but it's real, which maybe is the concept of the fatedness of Romeo and Juliet, but love is difficult. That's good. All right, another one. And even if we'd met on a crowded street in 1944 and you were headed off to war, you would still have been mine. We would have been timeless. So this idea that no matter when they would have lived in time, they would have been together. And then, I can't let you go. Your handprints on my soul. Your eyes are like liquor and your body is gold. I love that anybody actually knows Taylor Swift songs. I don't know these songs. I'm probably butchering them, the cadence. But I find it interesting that several of these songs were written when Taylor Swift was with her long-term boyfriend, Joe Alwyn. Therefore, several of the songs people believe were written for him, and they obviously did not end up together. So they're not soulmates anymore, but because she's now engaged to Travis Kelce. So maybe this has changed her mind on soulmates, or perhaps she thinks she can have multiple ones, or that her old boyfriend wasn't the real deal after all.
Could be.
Yeah.
I feel like she also bought into the idea of karma because she has a song called Karma.
It's a B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if she believes in that, she also believes in what is it, the Buddhist and the Hindu version?
Yeah. Karma is my
soulmates?
boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see that being like, she maybe believes her lover is lost in a different time, but she's still going to get to them,
Yeah.
just like they believe. It's like we'll find each other throughout the centuries.
Exactly.
Those lyrics kind of reflect that.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely, if not the idea of soulmates, the idea of fate, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess we can say that is myth busted.
There we go. Next on this podcast, we like to do something called Forbidden Books of the Bible. We're going through the Book of Enoch now. We're calling it the Enoch episodes. This week we did chapter 45 through 48.
Yeah. So we did a little bit less chapters this week, first of all, because there's quite a lot of depth in these chapters. And second of all, we just were really busy and didn't have as much time to delve in depth to all the chapters we had planned. So we're just going to do 4 in depth today and then move on in the next episode. So, babe, do you want to, introduce us to chapter 45?
So this is the second parable in the Book of Enoch, and it seems to be a record. Chapter 45 seems to be a record of what the Lord is saying about those who deny the name of the dwelling of the holy ones and the Lord of the spirits, because it's written in first person.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like the Lord is saying what's in this chapter, unlike the previous chapters, which were clearly written from Enoch's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So this chapter describes how the wicked and the good will be tried by the Lord and receive either rest on a transformed earth with the Lord, or be banished from that new earth and, quote, not set foot thereon. God says that he will destroy them from the face of the earth.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I think that it is kind of cool, this second parable, how it is written in first person as if it is the Lord speaking, which, I mean, if we're actually attributing this to God, that could be a little dangerous because you don't want to make up words for God, but just for the
but Enoch
argument.
was supposed to be a holy transcriber.
Exactly, a
So
prophet
he's
for God.
transcribing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so he's prophesying, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. So once again, this second parable focuses on that this is for a time to come.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of idea of a day of judgment that is coming, and that the wicked who have denied the name of the Lord will be punished. And it's interesting because it says they will not ascend to the heavens, so they won't go up to heaven per se, or live on the earth, which kind of comes into play later on. I thought it was interesting. Once again, he talks about, the Lord is speaking here, and he talks about the elect one multiple times, which in the actual Bible, Jesus is referred to the elect one as the elect one or the chosen one of God. And so the words of the Lord of Spirits here says, on that day, my elect one will sit on the throne of glory and will judge their works. So judge the wicked. And I will cause the elect one to dwell among the righteous, and I will transform the heavens, and I will transform the earth, and cause the righteous to dwell on the earth, but the sinners will not dwell on the earth. So I found this quite fascinating because it has so many correlations, I think, in the idea of, first of all, in Matthew 25, it says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on a glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate or judge the people. So just like in this passage in Enoch, it talks about the elect one sitting on the throne, being surrounded by heavenly beings and judging the righteous and the wicked. Just thought that was a kind of a cool parallel, as well as there's about 3 times in the Bible, Book of Revelation, Peter, and I think in Isaiah, that talk about the prophets seeing a new heaven and a new earth, where the first earth and the first heaven had passed away. And just like in the Book of Enoch, the Lord of Spirits is saying that he will transform the earth and transform the heavens and make them new.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving on to chapter 46, Enoch sees, quote, one who had a head of days, and his head was like white wool. And with him was another being whose countenance had the appearance of man, and his face was full of graciousness like one of the holy angels. So that's a similar description when it talks about the white as wool or white as snow on his head, as in Revelation 1, verse 14 through 15, where the Apostle John describes a vision of the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, with his head and hair described as white as wool and as white as snow. Also in Daniel 7, verse 9, an even earlier prophecy in the book of Daniel describes the Ancient of Days, so God, with hair of his head like pure wool. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just the comparison from the actual Bible to the book of Enoch.
Yeah.
Gives a little bit more credibility.
Yes, I really found this interesting. Yeah, because so this chapter 46 talks about Enoch seeing one who was the head of days, which another way to translate that is Ancient of Days, which really parallels Daniel 7, which talks about the Ancient of Days who has hair white as wool. And continuing on in the passage of Daniel 7, it says, and then one who was like the Son of Man, came before the Ancient of Days and was given dominion over kings of the earth. And if we go back to chapter 46 of the Book of Enoch, Enoch says to an angel, what am I seeing here? And the angel says, this is the Son of Man who is righteous, and he is one who will rule over the nations.
Mm-hmm.
So just this cool parallel. What we see in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelations of the Ancient of Days, hair white as wool, and the Son of Man, here in the book of Enoch, chapter 46 as well.
Yeah, he goes on to describe how the Son of Man will put down the countenance of the strong and shall fill them with shame. The chapter continues with more descriptions on how the Son of Man will judge those who deny the name of the Lord of the Spirits and persecute the house of his congregations. So a lot of mentions of the Son of Man here, which is interesting.
Yeah, I find that interesting as well, which in the New Testament, Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man more than any other title.
Yeah.
Not the Son of God, not, he calls himself the Son of Man the most. So he's really identifying with seemingly this figure. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I like this kind of second half of chapter 46 because it talks about the Son of Man will raise up kings and kingdoms and thrones, and he will tear down kings and kingdoms and thrones, which in the book of Daniel as well, we see this prophecy about God being the one who raises up kings and tears them down.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because this is sort of a prophecy here, but it's also different than Daniel in that this is a direct transcription from an angel.
Yes.
Daniel's, I feel like, is much more of a prophecy, whereas this is Enoch describing what he's being told or what he's seeing.
Yeah, or he's in a vision, I think is what it said at the beginning of the book. Yeah.
To the point where he's telling people what God is saying, like a direct quote from the Lord, so much so that the whole chapter is written from God's point of view.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting comparison to make between Daniel and this, is that he is like in the midst, just writing down what he's seeing and what the Lord is saying directly, whereas the prophecy in Daniel seems to be a bit more of an actual prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like that.
Just an interesting comparison.
Yeah. In the end of this chapter, it makes it very clear that the unrighteous are ones who rely upon their riches, that their power comes from their wealth, and their faith are in gods which are made with their own hands, and they deny the Lord. Whereas the faithful are the ones who depend upon the name of the Lord. So just kind of this alternative. And it also mentions that the wicked persecute the faithful or the righteous.
Right, which ties into chapter 47, how it says in those days, it describes how in those days shall have ascended the prayer of the righteous and the blood of the righteous from the earth before the Lord of spirits. It goes on to say, in those days I saw the head of days when he seated himself upon the throne of his glory, and the books of the living were opened before him, and all his hosts, which is in heaven above, and his counselors stood before him. This follows an interesting theme of the Bible that mentions the book of life, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
That happens several other places in the Bible itself, like Revelation, Exodus, Malachi, and Psalms. So I thought that parallel regarding the book of the living was super interesting.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. So Enoch is speaking of these days of judgment, which is a huge theme throughout the whole book of Enoch. And he says specifically that in those days, the prayer of the righteous will ascend before the Lord and the blood of the righteous, which likely refers to martyrs, because in the previous verses, it was talking about the wicked persecuting the faithful. And he's saying also that those who are in heaven with one voice raise up prayers before the Lord on behalf of the martyrs. And they're praying that the martyrs will have justice. And I see this as a big connection, kind of like you mentioned, also in the book of Revelation, verses 9 and 10, where John is speaking, and he says, I saw under the altar the souls of those who have been slain for the word of God. And they cried out with a loud voice, how long, O Lord, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Which is just a huge parallel, I think, here of, Enoch seeing the prayers of the righteous ascending and the blood of the righteous on the earth before the Lord.
Totally.
Yeah.
So chapter 48 closes out. Enoch sees a fountain of righteousness, which was, quote, inexhaustible, and around it were many founts fountains of wisdom, and all the thirsty drank from them, and were filled with wisdom, and their dwellings were the righteous and holy and elect.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of fountain themes to this chapter is what I
Yes.
got.
Yeah. For the whole chapter?
For most of the chapter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I find that interesting too. I'm not exactly sure what the fountain of righteousness is specifically, but it talks about it being inexhaustible or never ending. And if you're thirsty, come and drink. So could be the river of life that we see in the book of Revelation, which it ends with the words of Jesus saying, all who are thirsty, come and drink. And then moving on to verse 2, it says, and at the hour that the Son of Man was named, before the head of days, or before the Ancient of Days. And so Enoch has seen like when the Son of Man was named. And it said it was before the sun and the stars were made, before the heavens were made. His name was named. And he will be a staff of righteousness. He'll be a light to the Gentiles and a hope for all who are troubled in their hearts. Mm-hmm. So Enoch here is giving a prophecy about who this Son of Man is. And there's just so many connections and cross references I saw in the Bible. First of all, he's talking about how the Son of Man was before all creation, which reminds me of John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, which talks about Jesus being before creation. And then it also talks about how the Son of Man will be a staff of righteousness, which is in the book of Isaiah, as well as Psalms 23. Your rod and your staff, you comfort me. That he will be a light to the Gentiles, which there's also several prophecies in the Old Testament, specifically Isaiah 49:6, which says, speaking of a future messianic figure, you will be a light for the Gentiles. Mm-hmm. So right there, just kind of a cool prophecy that he's delivering. And then it continues on and says that all who dwell on the earth will fall down and worship the Son of Man and praise and bless him. And that he has been before the creation of the world, and he will be forevermore. That the Lord has revealed him to the righteous. And in his name they are saved, according to his good pleasure. Mm-hmm. Which, again, so many different biblical cross-references there, that every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus was before creation, if we are correlating the Son of Man in the Book of Enoch to a messianic figure. And also that he will, that for in his name they are saved, really stood out to me. Not in the name of the Lord of Spirits, but in the name of the Son of Man. Yeah.
And pretty much from there on, it goes on to describe how the wicked will be treated in the day when the Son of Man returns. And then, it says a lot of stuff. As the straw in the fire, so shall they burn before the face of the holy. As lead in the water, shall they sink before the face of the righteous. And no trace of them shall any more be found. So it goes on to describe a little bit further, and then it ends the chapter by saying, the name of the Lord of Spirits be blessed.
Yeah, I liked that. Yeah, so just kind of ending it with that. Once again, the kings will be, taken down, that nobody will be able to save themselves, that they won't be able to muster up their own strength. Even the strong won't be strong enough to face the judgment, and that they will find no rest on the earth, which is kind of where we started this parable, that they will not find rest in the heavens or on the earth, which implies that the wicked will be in eternity somewhere other than on the earth or in heaven.
Yeah.
And it says, once again, it specifies who the wicked are. It says, those who have denied the Lord and his anointed. So he's calling the Son of Man the anointed, which anointed or anointed one means Christ. Yeah. And that is kind of the wrap up of the first half of this parable. Yeah. So what do you think overall of this section?
I thought it was cool. I thought this had a lot more parallels. I keep using that word. To the Bible than I expected. I expected the book of parables to be a little bit less connected to the actual scripture that we have today, just because the book of the Watchers, I think, is the part of Enoch that I consider close to being canon. And I wasn't ready for this to be, like I said, as closely related to scripture as it was. So it was cool to see that.
Yeah, same for me. Like I was thinking once we finished up the Book of the Watchers, like, okay, the rest will just be kind of whatever stuff. But there were so many, regardless of, when this book was written, which it's believed to have been written in 100 AD about, regardless, like it has so many beautiful themes that are biblically accurate regarding God and the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah. Great thoughts. Good cross references you brought up.
You too.
Moving on, we are going to end with some suggestions for our listeners. So, Caleb, do you have any suggestions for us today?
Get to bed on time.
Okay.
Do it. Stay hydrated and get to bed on time and get up on time. Been really trying to discipline myself and do that these past 2 nights. And it's been easier to wake up in the mornings, which has been nice.
Yeah, you've been getting up early too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my recommend. What about you?
My recommend is to buy a printer, your own personal printer. This is something that we did not have until about 2 months ago when Caleb bought a printer. And I'd always just kind of use the printer at work or would print things off at my mom's house. But it's been like so adulty feeling and nice to have like a printer. And I sell things on eBay and like you do work stuff. So it's kind of nice just to be able to walk into our office and print things off. So it's worth the investment, although it does use up a lot more ink than I feel like it should. I feel like we like print out like 20 pages and it's like new toner needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we got to set aside money to buy a new car and also money to afford ink cartridges.
Ink cartridges for our printer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that to say, don't let that deter you, but it is a very adult feeling thing to have a printer.
It only took us 31 years to figure that out.
There we go. Finally did it.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, are we going to do a ad at the end or just in?
No.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today on Stuff That We Like / Enjoy, at least this point in time. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.